Good morning. Today is Thursday. It is the 14th day of Menachem, and today we complete the letter 4 in Igeret Hakodesh. Yesterday we learned a big chunk from the beginning, and today the last part of this chapter of this letter. And what is the Alter Rebbe talking about here in this letter? And he's talking about redeeming the soul from the captivity, that the soul is captive in the outside forces. The other side, the evil side, is capturing the very core of the soul. In other words, he was talking about what is the real you. Where is the real you? You can serve God in one way by understanding and developing feeling of love to Hashem and fear of God and so on and so forth, by contemplating the greatness of Hashem, which develops feeling of love and fear. But it could be that even then, it's still not reaching the very essence, the very core of your soul. And Alter Rebbe explains that this is one of the aspects, the power of the giving tzedakah. When you give yourself, from your life, the money that you earn, the money that you invest your core, your essence to, you give it to Hashem, to a good cause, you give it to poor people, give it to a shul, you give it to a yeshiva, to good causes. What this does, Hashem in turn, this brings in turn that Hashem should give you that inner feeling, that the inner essence of your soul should turn to Hashem, that you should turn to Hashem with the inner you. And today, the Alter Rebbe is going to finish with this part, explaining what this means, that you're redeeming the inner you, and that leads you into the way of Hashem. But before we're going to learn today, I want to go back to something we said, the Alter Rebbe said in the very last part of yesterday's class, and that I was thinking about something that needs explanation. And that is, we're talking about, the Alter Rebbe said that this concept is also connected with the idea of circumcising the heart, removing the foreskin. There is a foreskin that blocks that inner soul to be redeemed, and to be that your inner desire should be to Hashem. And he explained that in the circumcision you have two parts, and you have the part of the milah, removing the foreskin, and there is also periya. Periya means removing the membrane, revealing that's a very thin layer. And that represents, the foreskin represents the coarse desires, which is not godly, the very coarse lusts and desires. That is something that we have to do ourselves. And then there is the removal of the membrane. This is the more subtle issues that you have, that you may not be aware of, that this is an issue, that this is a problem. And this is something that Hashem helps you. Hashem will remove that part. And then the Alter Rebbe goes on to say that this second part of removal of the membrane, which is called periya. Periya means revealing, like ufora esreisha isha, revealing the head, the hair, and so on. But the word periya, says the Alter Rebbe, has also another meaning. In Hebrew, periya also means paying off a debt. What are we talking about? Paying off a debt. So the Alter Rebbe says that when you do that, when you give tzedakah and thereby removing Hashem, taking you out and redeeming your soul, you're paying off a debt to the evil forces because the soul was in captivity in the evil forces. And now that you're removing it from them, you're paying off the debt. And I was thinking, what does it mean paying off the debt? Giving them. By removing from the evil forces, you're basically eliminating them. So why does the Alter Rebbe say that you're paying off the debt? I want to read it inside and then we'll give the explanation. Alter Rebbe says here, see, v'zeh gam kein loshen peria, inyan prias choiv. This also explains the term peria, which suggests periat chov, removing a debt. Shenischaye v'nishtabed lachitzonim, shemoshlu boy al nekudas pnimis levavei. The individual in question has become indebted and subjected to the forces of evil that had ruled within him over the innermost point of his heart. And this is when we can understand the meaning of the above quoted phrase that her captives shall be redeemed. The captives shall be redeemed. So my question is, what does it have to do with paying off a debt? Paying off a debt is you giving something to them. You're giving something to the outside forces, like you have a debt to the outside forces, the forces of evil, and now you have to pay them, you have to give it to them. So I was searching around, and then I found the recording from Rabbi Chaim Sholem Deitch from Yerushalayim, and he said something beautiful. He said, the Rebbe explains why when it happens, it's a reality that when people commit sin, after you commit a sin, you feel bad, you feel sad. Why is it? So one way of understanding is that this is exactly one of the tricks of the Yetzer Hara. When you do the tricks of the Yetzer Hara, is not just that you should commit the sin; he wants to drag you down into sadness. Because sadness is something that really pulls you down completely, and that's the Alter Rebbe speaks about it a lot in the Tanya, how we have to be positive, not to let ourselves into sadness, because that's exactly the tricks of the Yetzer Hara. But then he said something from the Rebbe, something very profound. And he says that the feeling of sadness really comes from the evil itself. Why? The evil is sad that you failed. Because if you wouldn't fail, you would really redeem them. And there is a famous example that they're also quoted in Tanya from the Zohar, that it says about the Mashal Zaina ben Amelech, the example of the harlot and the son of the king, that a king sometimes will hire a prostitute to try to seduce his son in order to see how strong his morals are. So this woman is trying to seduce him, but yet she doesn't want him to go. She wants him to be strong. She's hired by the king, and she wants him to be like his father wants him to be. And ultimately, this is also true with all the evil forces that exist in the world. In the essence, they don't want us to be dragged down. And that is why, when we reach the level of removing the very essence and the very core of the soul, that our very excitement should be about God, not about materialism, not to be dragged down into the evil forces. This is, in a way, perhaps of paying off a debt that we were in captivity by them. And now when we're removing and redeeming this soul, we are also paying off the debt to them, because ultimately that's what they want. And now we shall continue with the Alter Rebbe continues today. And he's going to explain what it means. The verse that he started this letter, that it says, Tzedek lefanov yehalech. The tzedek, righteousness, or tzedakah, or charity, makes walk in front of him. Or what that means, the wording is a little strange, that it says make something else walk. What is this something else? That is the fun of the inner part of the person, which is the inner part of the neshama. Let's see inside. The Alter Rebbe says in today's lesson, continues the Alter Rebbe v'zeu tzedek lefanov yehalech. In these terms too, we can understand the meaning of the above quoted phrase, that righteousness or charity shall go yehalech before him, lefanav. Now, as we said before, yehalech is not just going, and that's of shall go. Yehalech means it will make something else go. So what does it mean? So he says, lefanav u'meloshen pnimius. When saying before him, lefanav, the word lefanav shares a root also with pnimiyut, the inwardness. Ve'yehalech u'meloshen hoylacha. And yehalech, the causative form of the verb, which appears in this verse, in place of the expected form, yelech. Yelech means shall go. Yehalech means it should make something else go. It shares a root with holacha, leading. So what does it mean? That it leads, the tzedek, lefan of yehalech, the tzedek, the tzedakah, leads the pnimiyas alev, the inner part of the heart. Shemolich et pnimius alev laHashem, because tzedakah leads the innermost point of a man's heart towards Hashem. So, like we said before, the innermost point of the heart. Sometimes a person can serve Hashem and is excited with godliness, but then the next thing after davening, he'll be excited with something else. What is the inner core? What is the real you, the inner essence of you? Where is your inner self connected with? What is it connected with? This is the real geula. This is real redemption. The real redemption is that you reveal the inner part and you put it in the right place. That the inner part is connected with the essence of Hashem. And then, as a result of that, Yosim lederech Hashem pe'amav. And then he sets his step towards the way of Hashem, towards the way of God. As it is written, V'halachta bidrachav, and you shall walk in his ways. You walk in God's ways. V'halachta bidrachav acharei Hashem elei. Likewise, you shall go after the Lord, your God. Walk in his ways. What does it mean, walk in his ways? To act godly. Like it says, that God is not like a human king. A human king commands people to do, he orders people around, but he does not necessarily follow what he tells the people. This is something which we are quite familiar these days. Do what I say. Rules for thee, not for me. This is the way kings used to be all along. But Hashem is different. When God commands us to do a mitzvah, Hashem follows. He tells us to follow in His ways. He is charitable. He's kind. And we follow His ways, we become godly. With his entire performance of the commandments and with his study of the Torah, which is equivalent to them all. Now, all of the actions of the mitzvahs, shekulam oilim laHashem al yedei pnimis alev, for they all ascend to God through the inwardness of the heart, which is revealed through the service of tzedakah. Now, what is he saying here? If you remember, in the first part of the Tanya, we were learning about the mitzvahs, that there are many mitzvahs in the Torah. All of the mitzvahs every mitzvah is a goal in and of itself, connects us to Hashem. Every mitzvah is a mitzvah, tzavsa means a connection. So no matter what mitzvah, even if a person doesn't do any mitzvahs, and he does one mitzvah, that's when we go out and put on tefillin with people. Some people ask, what's the point of standing on Sheepshead Bay Road and putting on people tefillin if the next thing he goes on into a non-kosher restaurant and he eats something not kosher? What's the point? And the answer is that this mitzvah itself is a goal. It's not just a means to lead the person. Of course, obviously, ultimately, we want the person to be connected with all of the mitzvahs. But every mitzvah in itself is a goal. But however, there are two mitzvahs in the Torah that serve as a means to a goal. There are two mitzvahs that help the other mitzvahs. What are the two mitzvahs? The mitzvah of love of Hashem and fear of Hashem. We have a commandment to love God and to fear God. So the love of God serves as wings, as they explained in Tanya, wings that lift up all of the mitzvahs to the higher levels. So that when you do a mitzvah and you do it with love to Hashem, it elevates that mitzvah to a higher source, to a higher level within godliness. Now, this level of love and level of fear of Hashem, it depends what type of love you developed. So if you developed a love based on understanding, based on feeling the greatness of Hashem, or based on feeling that Hashem is your life, each level reaches to a certain level of Hashem. But to really reach to the very essence, to ultimately is when you reach from something very deep within you, which is something that is not achieved, it's not revealed by your own actions, it is given to you as a gift from Hashem. And that gift is triggered when you do a similar thing. When you give tzedakah, as we said before, as we learned yesterday, when you give the charity, you're giving from yourself, you're giving from your life, something that you invested your life in, or something that you can earn a life. You live life to the fullest. What does it mean you're living life to the fullest? This is living life to the fullest. That the inner you is given to Hashem. And that he says, this is the inner type of love and fear of Hashem that elevates the Torah to the highest level. That is done through tzedakah. Continues the Alter Rebbe. Shekulam oilim laHashem al yedei pnimis alev. For they all ascend to God through the inwardness of the heart, which is revealed through the service of tzedakah, and that goes beyesa se'esa maila me'aliyasa laHashem al yedei chitzonis alev. And this ascent is more intense and reaches far higher than their ascent to God through the externality of the heart. As we said, what is the externality of the heart? Through understanding godliness. That's what he continues to say. For this ascent is born only of men's contemplation and knowledge of godliness, without an illumination of the divine countenance. But from above, but in a state in which the countenance is hidden. The inner part is hidden. You only have the externality of the heart. Understanding. There's a limit. We're humans. There's a limit how much we can understand. But when there is a revelation from the inside of Hashem, this reaches the very inside of you and elevates your actions, your mitzvahs, everything to much, much higher level. Now, this countenance of Hashem, how is it revealed? Is through the tzedakah. For the supernal countenance does not radiate downwards except through an arousal initiated from below through an act of charity, charity being called peace. The charity is called peace. Why is charity called peace? Because charity makes peace between the inner you and the inner godliness. It connects the two. This also explains the verse that King David says, Pada v'shalom nafshi. This is the meaning of the verse that says, He has redeemed my soul in peace. Nafshi daike. The verse speaks expressly of my soul. King David could have said, Pada oisi b'shalom. He redeemed me in peace. What does it mean? What does it mean by saying He redeemed my soul in peace? Because my soul, the very essence of the soul, was redeemed through peace, through tzedakah, as we said. The soul that was invested, that is in captivity, is being redeemed through tzedakah. When you give tzedakah, you're able to elevate that Hashem shines His countenance, and thereby redeeming that powerful, the nuclear power that you have in your soul that is invested in other things is being redeemed now and connected to Hashem. This is also the reason for which charity is called peace. Because according to the teaching of our sages of blessed memory, by virtue of charity, peace is made between Israel and the Father in heaven. Which means through the redemption of their soul, which are truly a part of God from the grip of the forces of evil. So, and now the Alter Rebbe says, especially when we're talking about charity to Eretz Israel. As you remember, we said that these letters the Alter Rebbe wrote to encourage people to give charity to support the Hasidim that moved to the Holy Land back then, 250 years ago. Says the Alter Rebbe says that there is a special power when you give charity to the people that study Torah in the land of Israel. Because the land of Israel has a greater level of godliness revealed, and when you support people there, who study Torah there, it connects you more with the inner essence of Hashem. He says, "Befrat tzidkas Eretz Yisrael." This is especially the case in the charity for the land of Israel. Shei tzidkas Hashem mamash, for it is truly the charity of God, since it is directed to a place where the divine name is revealed. As it is written, Tamid einei Hashem Elokecha ba, the eyes of the Lord your God are constantly upon it. And there is another verse that says, V'hoyu einai v'libi shom kol hayamim, and my eyes and my heart will be there at all times. And the Alter Rebbe says that this merit of supporting the people in Eretz Israel helped us to redeem our soul from the problems that they have. If you remember, we mentioned Alter Rebbe was arrested twice for, we're not going to go into this again, spiritual reasons, and he says that tzedakah that he collected for the people in Eretz Yisrael helped to miraculously be saved from them. And this charity for the Holy Land is that it stood by us to redeem the life of our souls from the counsel of those who seek to repel our steps, those who desire to harm us. And this charity will stand by us forever. To set our soul in a true life of the fountainhead of life, so that we will be enlightened with the light of life, which God will make his face radiate with us. Selah is also meaning forever. Amen ken yeratza, and Amen, may this be his will. This is the end of letter 4. Beautiful letter, once again explaining one of the deeper aspects of the meaning of the tzedakah, the charity that we give, that this tzedakah in general, when you give from your life, it redeems the very essence of your soul, that the inner you should be connected with the inner level of godliness. This is the end of today's shir. Thank you for joining. Any questions we can take now? Don't forget to subscribe, invite friends to join us the morning class or to watch the videos. All the best.